I never imagined I would become the kind of mother who hid a camera in her own child's bedroom. That kind of thing belonged on true crime documentaries, not in our quiet Arizona neighborhood lined with citrus trees and chalk drawings. But motherhood changes you. It sharpens your instincts, makes every tiny change in your child feel like an alarm bell, and forces you to face truths you never wanted to consider. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm the mother of a 9-year-old girl named Mia. Bright, imaginative, gentle-hearted Mia, who used to wake up humming and fall asleep surrounded by her stuffed unicorns. Lately, though, her spark had begun to fade, and every time I asked why, she quietly told me she was just tired. But it wasn't the kind of tired you fix with a nap. It was the kind that eats at a child from the inside. My husband, Jason, would brush it off. Kids go through phases, he'd say, ruffling Mia's hair like nothing was wrong. Jason had always been the calm one, the logical one, the man who coached soccer on weekends and grilled burgers on Friday nights. For 12 years, I believed he was incapable of hurting anyone, especially his own daughter. But then the nighttime visits began. It started on a Thursday. At 1:37 a.m., I woke up suddenly, sensing something was off. The sheets beside me were cold. Jason wasn't in bed. At first, I thought he was just grabbing water, but then I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, quiet, careful. Not the relaxed steps of someone walking to the kitchen. These sounded almost hidden. I slipped out of bed and peeked down the hallway just in time to see Jason standing in front of Mia's door. His hand was on the doorknob. He opened it slowly, the way someone does when they don't want to wake the house. And then he stepped inside without a word. My heart pounded so loudly I thought he might hear it. I counted every second until he reappeared, closing the door behind him with the same eerie quietness. He didn't see me. I hurried back to bed before he returned. When he slid under the sheets, he breathed calmly, as if nothing unusual had taken place. The next morning, I tested him. "Did you get up last night?" I asked casually. "Yeah," he said without hesitation. Mia kicked her blankets off. I tucked her back in. It was too smooth, too practiced. My stomach twisted. That weekend, the same thing happened. Different times, same careful footsteps, same silent entrance into our daughter's room. And Mia? She grew more withdrawn, more anxious, more afraid of bedtime. The final straw came on a school morning when she tugged at my sleeve and whispered, "Mom, do I have to sleep in my room tonight?" I froze. "Why, sweetheart?" Her eyes dropped to the floor. "Because someone keeps coming in when I'm asleep." Someone. Not Daddy. My blood ran cold. That afternoon, while Jason was at work and Mia was at school, I ordered a hidden camera shaped like a regular nightlight. When it arrived, I installed it with trembling hands. I hated that I even needed to do this, but I needed answers. I needed proof. I needed to know what Jason was doing in our daughter's room every night. That night, the camera began recording. I didn't sleep. I lay on my side, facing the wall, pretending to breathe slowly and evenly so Jason wouldn't notice the way my nerves rattled inside me like loose screws. When he finally drifted off, I checked the time, 12:14 a.m. If he followed his pattern, he'd get up within the next hour. My chest tightened as each minute passed. And then, at 1:02 a.m., the mattress beside me shifted. I felt the covers lift. Jason sat up slowly, carefully, like a man who didn't want to wake his wife. I kept my eyes barely open, watching his silhouette as he stared at the bedroom door for a moment, then stood. He moved softly, too softly. He didn't use his phone's flashlight like he normally did when checking on Mia. He didn't sigh or scratch his head or shuffle like he usually did in the middle of the night. No, he walked like he was on a mission. As soon as he stepped out, I slipped out of bed, grabbed my phone, and opened the live feed from the hidden camera. The stream loaded slowly, too slowly. My heart thudded as the buffering circle spun uselessly, mocking me. Then, finally, the image appeared. Jason stood at the foot of Mia's bed, just watching her. Not touching her. Not moving. Just standing there, his head tilted slightly to the side, the way someone leans in to hear something faint. Mia lay curled on her side, breathing softly, oblivious to the shadow looming over her. I covered my mouth with both hands, holding in a gasp. A minute passed, then 2, then 5. Jason didn't touch her. He didn't adjust her blanket. He didn't check her temperature. He just stared. Finally, he reached out, but only to gently pull a stuffed animal closer to her. I frowned. What was that? Why take so long just to do that? He stayed another minute, then turned and left her room as quietly as he'd entered. I rushed back into bed before he returned, pretending to sleep again. When he climbed under the covers, his breathing was steady. Normal, like nothing had happened. But nothing about what I saw felt normal. The next morning, I tried to act natural, but my thoughts spiraled. Why did he stand over her like that? Why didn't he adjust her blanket right away if that was really his excuse? Why linger? Why watch her sleep? I couldn't shake the memory of Mia's frightened whisper. Someone keeps coming in when I'm asleep. Someone. Not Daddy. Jason noticed my silence at breakfast. Everything okay? He asked, sipping his coffee. Just tired, I muttered. He nodded but didn't push. He'd always been good at reading me, and lately he seemed almost afraid to. Mia sat quietly, stirring her cereal until it turned soggy. Sweetheart, I said softly, did you sleep better last night? She shrugged. Not really. Jason looked up. Nightmares again? Something like that, she whispered. She wouldn't look at him. That settled it. When Jason left for work, I opened the camera footage again and watched the recording from start to finish. His behavior wasn't violent. It wasn't physical, but it was unsettling. Too deliberate. Too intense. Too controlled. Like he was studying her. I couldn't ignore it anymore, but I needed to understand it. That evening, I called my older sister, Dana, who lived in Colorado. She was a therapist, licensed, experienced, and the most level-headed person I knew. Hey, she said after picking up. Everything good? I hesitated. Can I talk to you about something? Something serious? Her tone shifted immediately. Of course. What's going on? I closed the bedroom door. It's Jason. He keeps going into Mia's room at night. And I don't know why. There was a long pause. Is he? Sarah, does Mia feel unsafe? She says someone comes in at night. Does she know it's him? I don't think so. Dana inhaled sharply. Okay, you need to be careful. But before you jump to the worst conclusion, let me ask, has Jason been stressed lately? Any major changes? Trauma triggers? Sleep issues? Sleep issues. I repeated. Like what? Sleepwalking, night terrors, dissociation, PTSD episodes. Adults can have them too, especially under pressure. Jason doesn't sleepwalk. Are you sure? I hesitated. Jason had always been a heavy sleeper, predictable, routine-driven. But lately he had been distant, distracted, forgetful. Could stress do something like this? I asked. Absolutely, she said. Stress can make people do things they don't remember, things that look alarming. I swallowed hard. My instinct screamed danger, but another part of me, the part that remembered our 12 years of marriage, the man who cried when Mia was born, the man who never raised his voice, told me to slow down. Sarah, Dana continued softly, just keep documenting everything. And talk to him when you feel safe. But that was the problem. I didn't feel safe. Not yet. Not until I had answers. That night, I moved the camera to a higher angle where it captured more of the room, including the doorway. Jason didn't notice. At 1:18 a.m., he got up again. My hands shook as I opened the live feed. This time, something was different. Jason didn't go straight to her bed. He stood in the doorway, breathing heavily, gripping the doorframe as if steadying himself. His shoulders rose and felt like he was fighting something inside himself. Then he whispered something I couldn't hear. Mia stirred. Jason took one step toward her, then stopped. His whole body trembled. He covered his face with both hands, shoulders shaking, not in anger but in grief. I froze. What was I seeing? He crouched down in the doorway, head bowed, almost like he was praying. After nearly a minute, he stood, wiped his face, and left the room without ever touching her. I stared at the screen long after he left, my heart pounding with a new, unfamiliar fear. one mixed with confusion, dread, and something else I hadn't expected. Sympathy. Something was wrong with my husband. Something deeply, painfully wrong. And I was finally beginning to understand that the danger in our house might not be what I thought it was. It might be something inside him, something breaking, something he was trying desperately to hide. But I wasn't prepared for how bad it truly was, and I wasn't ready for what the next recording would show. But that was what changed everything. The next recording didn't happen for 2 nights, and those 48 hours felt like a knot tightening inside my chest. Jason didn't get up either night, at least not that I saw. He slept heavily, barely moving, as if exhaustion had suddenly swallowed him whole. Mia, on the other hand, barely slept at all. She insisted on a night light, asked me to leave her bedroom door cracked open, and begged me to sit with her until she drifted off. She clung to my arm like she was afraid I would vanish the moment she closed her eyes. On Saturday morning, after another restless night, I decided we needed a distraction. "Let's go to the farmer's market," I said cheerfully as Mia dragged her feet into the kitchen. "We'll get those cinnamon mini donuts you like." Her face brightened a little. "Can we get the honey sticks?" "All the honey sticks you want," I promised. Jason looked up from his coffee, tired eyes meeting mine. "I'll come with you," he said. My stomach dropped. "Actually, I think it'll be good if it's just me and Mia today." His expression flickered, hurt first, then suspicion, then something resigned. "Okay," he said softly. "Okay, you two have fun." But we didn't make it 10 minutes down the road before Mia said something that made my hands tighten on the steering wheel. "Mom," she whispered, "when is Daddy going to stop being sad?" I glanced at her. "Sad? What makes you think he's sad?" She stared out the window. "Because he cries at night." My pulse skipped. "What do you mean he cries?" "I hear him," she said, "through the wall. And sometimes he talks to someone." Someone. The same word she used before. "Do you know what he says?" I asked carefully. "No," Mia muttered. "It sounds like grown-up talking." But sometimes, she hesitated. "Sometimes it sounds like he's saying sorry." My throat tightened. Something inside Jason was unraveling, and I didn't know how to stop it. After the farmer's market, where I forced smiles and bought honey sticks and let Mia pet every dog in sight, I drove us home in silence. Jason was in the backyard when we pulled up, sitting alone on the edge of the patio with his head in his hands. He didn't hear us come in. I watched him through the window for a long moment. He looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but emotionally, like a man carrying a weight he couldn't put down. That night, the camera caught everything. It was 2:09 a.m. when he got up, slower this time, like every muscle in his body resisted the movement. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands as he walked toward Mia's room. This time, he didn't stand by the door. He went inside immediately, dropping to his knees beside her bed. He didn't touch her. He didn't lean over her. He just bowed his head and whispered something, words the microphone couldn't fully catch. But I could read his lips. 2 words repeated over and over. "I'm sorry." My stomach dropped. Mia stirred slightly, rolling to her other side, but she didn't wake. Jason looked up at her face with such heartbreaking pain that for a moment, my fear was replaced by confusion. What was he apologizing for? After a minute, he backed away, stood up shakily, and walked out. But instead of going back to our room, he went into the guest bathroom. He closed the door, and then the audio picked up something horrifying. A choke scream. Not loud. Muffled, strangled, like he was desperately trying to contain it. Then a thud. Then nothing. I didn't even remember getting out of bed. I just remember running, barefoot, panicked, down the hall, my heart slamming against my ribs like a trapped animal. "Jason." I pounded on the guest bathroom door. "Jason, open the door." No answer. I twisted the knob. Locked. "Jason, please." Silence. Something inside me snapped. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a butter knife, and jammed it into the door lock until it clicked. The door swung open. Jason was sitting on the floor, his back against the tub, arms wrapped tightly around his knees. His face was red, tear-streaked, and twisted with a kind of agony I had never seen on another human being. "Jason," I whispered. He didn't look up. "Please," he choked. Don't make me lie anymore." My pulse stopped. Lie about what? He shook his head violently, like a child refusing medicine. I can't, he sobbed. I can't tell you. I can't tell anyone. I crouched down, heart pounding. Jason, what's happening to you? He covered his face with his hands and broke down completely. Not like someone who'd been caught. Not like someone ashamed. Like someone shattered. Someone terrified. Someone who'd been carrying something so heavy for so long it finally crushed him. Jason, I said softly, trying to steady my voice. What do you do at night? Why do you go into Mia's room? For the first time in weeks, he looked directly at me, and the expression in his eyes chilled me more than anything the camera had ever captured. Because, he whispered, voice trembling, I'm trying to save her. My blood ran ice cold. Save her from what? Jason's breathing grew rapid, panicked, like he was fighting to hold back words that wanted to tear their way out. From me, he finally said. And in that moment, every assumption I'd made about danger in our house collapsed. Jason wasn't the threat. Jason was the warning. And something inside him, something he didn't understand and couldn't control, was getting worse. Much worse. But I still didn't know the truth. And the truth was far more devastating than I ever imagined. For a moment, the world around me went silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence, but the heavy, suffocating kind that settles right before something shatters. Jason, I whispered, what do you mean save her from you? His face crumpled again. I don't know what's happening to me, Sarah. I don't know why I'm doing things I don't remember doing. His hands trembled violently. Some nights I wake up in the hallway, or in the garage, or standing over her bed. And I don't remember walking there. I don't remember moving. He broke off, voice cracking. I just come back to myself, and I'm somewhere I shouldn't be. A cold wave ran through me. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought I could control it, he whispered. I thought it would stop. But it didn't. He shook his head. It got worse. He wiped his face with the back of his sleeve. 2 months ago, something happened at work. My breath hitched. What happened? There was a little girl, he said, eyes glazing as if replaying a memory. She came into the clinic with her mom. She reminded me of Mia, same age, same smile. And she was sick, really sick. Jason swallowed hard. She died in the ambulance before they even reached the hospital. I blinked. You never told me any of this, because I didn't want you to worry, he whispered. But after she died, I started having nightmares. He leaned his head back against the wall, eyes hollow. Nightmares where Mia was in her place. My heart squeezed painfully in my chest. Jason, every night I dream she's calling for me, and I can't reach her. I'm stuck, frozen, useless. I watch her slip away. He took a shaky breath, and then I wake up. I rub my forehead, trying to process. So you thought, what? That going into her room at night would help somehow. I don't know what I thought, he whispered. Sometimes I think I'm checking if she's breathing. Sometimes I think I'm reliving that night. His voice cracked again. But the truth is, I don't know what I'm doing. Silence stretched between us. A heavy, painful silence. I stared at my husband, this man I had slept beside for over a decade. A man I thought I knew better than anyone in the world. And for the first time I realized how much he'd been hiding. Not out of malice, but out of fear. Jason, I finally said, you need help. I know, he whispered. But I'm afraid. Afraid of what? He looked up at me, eyes full of something raw and heartbreaking. Afraid of what I might do if I lose control. A chill crawled over my skin. Jason, have you ever hurt Mia? His head jerked up instantly. No, he said with absolute certainty. I would never, ever hurt her. I swear to you. Have you ever wanted to? His face twisted, horrified. God, no. Then what are you afraid of? He hesitated. His voice was barely audible when he answered. I'm afraid I'll do something without knowing. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Jason, I have footage, I said quietly. His shoulders tensed. Footage. Yes. You filmed me. The hurt in his voice made my chest ache. I needed to know what you were doing. Do you think I'm a danger to her? He whispered. I hesitated, and that hesitation broke something in him. His face fell, and he folded forward, elbows on his knees, hands tangled in his hair. God, he breathed shakily. What's wrong with me? Jason, he cut me off, voice flat and empty. I need to see it. Jason, show me. There was no anger, no defensiveness, just desperation. I didn't want to show him not like this, not when he was already falling apart, but the truth was, he needed to face what was happening. We sat on the bathroom floor, knees touching, the cold towel seeping into our skin as I opened the camera app. The footage played. Jason watched without blinking. He saw himself enter the room. He saw himself kneel beside Mia's bed. He saw the way he whispered apologies to a sleeping child who never stirred. By the time the clip ended, his face was blotchy, wet with tears, and he was shaking so hard I thought he might collapse. "That's not me," he whispered hoarsely. "But it is," I said softly. "This is something happening to you, not something you're choosing." He shook his head violently. "I can't be near her. I can't. What if next time Jason," I said firmly, grabbing his hands, "listen to me. You haven't touched her. You've never harmed her. You're scared because you don't understand what's happening. That doesn't make you a monster. It makes you someone who needs help." He bows his head. "I should go to a hotel." "No," I said immediately. "Leaving won't fix this. Running won't fix this. Then what do I do?" His voice cracked on the last word. "Tomorrow," I said, "we're calling someone. A doctor. A therapist. Whoever it takes." Jason didn't respond right away. And then his voice dropped to a small, broken whisper I barely recognized. "I'm scared I'm losing my mind." "You're not," I said, squeezing his hands. "You're overwhelmed. You're grieving. You're exhausted. But you are not alone." He closed his eyes, breathing shakily, like he was clinging to the sound of my voice. I thought that moment, raw, painful, fragile, was the turning point, the beginning of healing. I was wrong. It was only the calm before everything truly spiraled. Because the next night, the camera captured something neither of us expected. Something that changed the entire story. Something that proved Jason wasn't the only one entering Mia's room at night. The next day felt heavier than any day before it. Jason barely spoke. He moved through the house like a man walking underwater, slow, distant, drowning in thoughts he couldn't escape. Mia sensed something was wrong too. She watched her father with wide, worried eyes, clinging to my side more than usual. I tried to keep things normal. Breakfast, cartoons, a trip to the park. But nothing could numb the knot of dread sitting in my stomach. Because I knew what was waiting for me that night. The camera, the next recording, proof of something I didn't understand, something just out of reach. When nighttime finally came, I tucked Mia in with extra care. Jason hovered in the doorway for a moment, unsure whether he should say goodnight. Mia looked at him, small and quiet, then whispered, "Good night, Daddy." His voice cracked when he answered, "Good night, sweetheart." When we went to bed, Jason lay stiffly beside me, staring at the ceiling. "I'm scared to fall asleep," he murmured. "I'm right here," I said. "Whatever happens, we'll deal with it together." But even as I said it, fear pulled tight in my chest. I didn't know what the night would bring, or what the camera would capture. Around 1:16 a.m., Jason finally drifted into an uneasy sleep. I stayed awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling, listening for the familiar creak of footsteps in the hallway. But they didn't come. The house stayed quiet, too quiet. At 2:07 a.m., I checked the camera feed. My heart stopped. Jason was still in bed beside me, but Mia's bedroom door was slowly, silently opening. And no one was there. No footsteps, no shadows, just the door inching open on its own. I sat up so fast the blanket twisted around my legs. The doorknob moved again, turning as if held by an invisible hand. My throat tightened. This had to be a glitch, a draft, something logical. But the camera angle didn't lie. The door opened fully, paused, and then Mia woke with a startled jerk, sitting up in her bed. I watched her lips move. She was whispering to someone the camera couldn't see. "Mom," she breathed, voice trembling. "Stop." My blood ran cold. She wasn't speaking to me. She was speaking into the air, toward the door. And then she said something that made my entire body shiver. "I told you I don't like it when you watch me sleep." The hair on the back of my neck stood straight up. Jason stirred beside me, startled awake by my sharp inhale. "What?" he whispered, groggy and confused. "What's happening?" I shoved the phone into his hands. Look. He blinked at the screen, squinting in the dark, then sat up abruptly. I'm still here, he whispered. That's Sarah, that's not me. I know. Mia kept talking quietly to the empty space in her room, voice wavering with a mix of fear and familiarity. She wasn't terrified. She wasn't screaming. It was almost worse. She sounded resigned, like she had spoken to this presence before. Please stop coming in, she whispered. Daddy doesn't like it. Jason grabbed my arm. Sarah, who is she talking to? I couldn't answer. I couldn't even breathe, because at that exact moment, the camera picked up something new, a tiny flicker of movement near the doorway. Not a body, not a shadow, just a distortion, like a shimmer in the air, bending the edges of the room. Jason froze, eyes wide with terror. What is that? I don't know, I whispered. I don't, the shimmer moved. Downward, closer to Mia. The room suddenly dimmed, the night light flickering once, twice, then going out completely. Mia gasped in the darkness. Stop, she cried. Please stop. Jason shot to his feet. I'm going in there. Wait, but he was already running down the hall. I sprinted after him, flipping lights on as I went. When we burst into Mia's room, she was trembling under her blanket, tears streaking her cheeks. Jason rushed to her and pulled her into his arms, holding her like he'd never let go. It's okay, he choked out. I'm here. Daddy's here. You're safe. Mia sobbed against his chest. It didn't listen, she cried. I told it to go away, but it didn't listen. Who? I asked, kneeling beside them. Who are you talking about? She shook her head fiercely and buried her face deeper into Jason's shoulder. I don't want it to come back. Jason and I locked eyes, fear and confusion swirling between us. This wasn't sleepwalking. This wasn't stress. This wasn't a nightmare. Something had been entering Mia's room. And it wasn't Jason. I reached for the nightlight camera to check the feed again, but my hands froze when I saw the screen. The video was still live. The image showed Mia's room, brightly lit now. Empty. Safe. But in the corner of the frame, the shimmer was still there. Watching us. Watching her. Watching him. Then the feed cut to black. Jason sat at the kitchen table, elbows on the wood, head in his hands like a man bracing for a storm he'd known was coming. I hovered by the counter, unsure whether I wanted to comfort him or interrogate him. The house felt too quiet, even with the hum of the refrigerator and the faint rattle of the AC vent. Everything inside me was tight, suspended, waiting. Before you say anything, Jason said, lifting his head slowly, I need you to understand that I wasn't trying to scare you, or Mia, or hide anything from you. His voice cracked in the middle, and that right there, the crack, made my chest twist. Jason didn't crack. Not easily. He was the steady one. The planner. The man who labeled wires and backed up our photos twice. For him to be trembling meant this wasn't something simple that could be brushed away with a logical explanation. Then help me understand, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Because what I saw on that camera, what I've been seeing for days, it's not nothing. Something is wrong, Jason. He nodded, but it was the slow, reluctant nod of someone who didn't want to speak the truth aloud. I thought it would stop, he whispered. I really thought it would stop on its own. I sat down across from him. What would stop? He swallowed hard. The episodes. A chill slid down my spine. Episodes. Sleepwalking, he said finally, the word dropping between us like a dead weight. Or at least something close to it. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure. My breath caught. Sleepwalking. Of all the scenarios that had run through my panicked, spiraling mind, that had not been one of them. But you looked awake, I said. You stood there like someone watching, he interrupted softly. I know how it looked. But Sarah, I swear to you, I don't remember any of it. He pushed his fingers through his hair, leaving it sticking up. I started noticing these gaps, little moments where I'd lose time. I'd wake up standing by the sink or sitting on the couch with the TV off, not knowing how I got there. But then it went away for a while. Months. I thought it was stress. Work. Just overload. And when it came back, I said, it centered on Mia's room. He closed his eyes, shame washing over his face. I know how that sounds. I know. But Sarah, when we moved into this house 4 months ago, I started having dreams. The same dream. Always the same. Mia calling for me, but not actually speaking. Like her voice was trapped. And I'd wake up in a panic, thinking something was happening to her. My heart tightened. So you started going into her room at night. I didn't know I was doing it, he whispered. I thought they were dreams. I didn't know I was actually getting up. Not until he hesitated. Not until you confronted me that first morning. The memory hit me like a flash, him brushing it off, telling me he tucked her blankets in. The too perfect answer. The way he didn't flinch. Because he believed it. So you weren't lying, I murmured. You really thought you'd done that while awake. He nodded helplessly. I swear to you, Sarah, I thought I was helping her. In my mind, it felt like she needed me. I shook my head slowly, trying to piece the puzzle together. Jason, this is serious. Sleepwalking doesn't usually look like this. You stood still for minutes. You watched her. It wasn't normal wandering. I know, he whispered. And that's why I didn't want to admit it. Because I was afraid of what it meant. A heavy silence stretched between us. Not angry. Not suspicious. Just heavy. Scary heavy. Why didn't you tell me? I finally asked. Why hide it? His eyes filled with tears he didn't bother to hide. Because I didn't want you to be afraid of me. Something inside me cracked, soft and painful. I'm not afraid of you, I said quietly. I'm afraid of not knowing what's happening to you. Jason lowered his head again, shoulders shaking, not with sobs, but with the kind of fear men don't always admit they have. I need help, he said. I know that now. I didn't want it to get this far. I didn't want it to scare Mia. Or you. But it did. I exhaled shakily. So what do we do? He looked up at me, eyes glassy, voice trembling. We figure out what's wrong with me. Together. I reached across the table, placed my hand on his, and for the first time since this nightmare began, he didn't flinch or pull away. He held on. Tight. Like he needed the anchor. Like he needed me. Like this marriage, this family, still meant everything to him. And I realized something then. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning of discovering the truth. And the truth? It wasn't done with us yet. Jason didn't sleep that night, and honestly, neither did I. He stayed on the couch, sitting upright with a blanket over his legs, eyes glued to the muted television like the light itself kept him tethered to reality. I lay in bed, listening to the quiet house, every little noise sounding sharper than usual. A creak in the hallway, the soft whoosh of the AC, the distant hum of a passing car. And every few minutes, my mind replayed that moment in Mia's room. The way Jason stood still, the strained posture, the eerie calmness. If this really was some kind of sleep disorder, then it wasn't the harmless kind people joked about. It wasn't wandering to the fridge for a snack or mumbling nonsense. This was different, intentional, focused, too focused. When morning finally came, the sunlight felt harsh, almost intrusive. Jason was still awake, sitting in the exact same position on the couch. His eyes were bloodshot, but his expression was determined. I want to get checked, he said before I even spoke. Today. That alone made something soften inside me. This wasn't a man avoiding responsibility. This was a man terrified of himself. I nodded. I'll call Mia's school and tell them she'll be late. We should talk to her first, because she deserved that much. We both walked into her room together. Mia was sitting on her bed, still in pajamas, hugging her stuffed unicorn. Her eyes flicked up nervously when she saw Jason, and my heart clenched. That tiny flinch, so quick, so instinctive, was proof that she had noticed more than she ever admitted. Sweetheart, I said gently, sitting beside her, we want to talk to you about the nighttime stuff. Her small shoulders tightened. Jason knelt slowly beside the bed, careful to keep a little distance. Mia, he said, voice soft but steady, I think I've been sleepwalking. She blinked. Sleepwalking? Yeah, he said, managing a tiny smile. Like when someone gets up at night, but their brain is still dreaming. I didn't know I was doing it, and I didn't know I was coming in here. I'm really sorry if I scared you. Her fingers tightened on the unicorn's ear. You didn't talk, she whispered. You just stood there. Jason swallowed hard. I know. And that's why I'm going to the doctor today. I need help to make sure it doesn't happen anymore. Mia looked at him for a long time, longer than most 9-year-olds hold eye contact, and then she whispered, "Will you get better?" Jason's voice cracked. "I'm going to try my absolute best, kiddo." Slowly, cautiously, Mia leaned forward and rested her forehead against Jason's. It wasn't quite a hug, but it was forgiveness, or at least the start of it. After dropping her off at school, we drove to the urgent care clinic, then got referred to a neurologist who specialized in parasomnias, sleep disorders that blur the lines between dreams and reality. They couldn't get him in for a full sleep study immediately, but when the receptionist heard what was happening, she bumped him to a cancellation spot later that night. While we waited, the neurologist did a preliminary exam and asked Jason a long list of questions. "Do you experience vivid dreams?" "Yes." "Repetitive ones?" "One in particular." "Do you feel paralyzed when waking up?" "Sometimes." "Any history of trauma, stress, or unresolved grief?" Jason hesitated. I turned to look at him. He didn't answer. The doctor noticed the pause but didn't push. "What you're describing," she said carefully, "sounds like it might be a form of non-REM parasomnia. But the level of awareness you displayed, standing still, focusing, that's unusual. It suggests either a more complex sleep disorder, stress-induced automatic behavior, or possibly something neurological." I felt cold. Jason squeezed my hand under the table. "The good news," the doctor continued, "is that this is treatable. But we need to understand the cause. The sleep study tonight will give us answers." On the way home, Jason stayed quiet until we pulled into the driveway. "There's something I didn't tell the doctor," he said softly. "Something I didn't tell you." My stomach nodded. "What is it?" He leaned back against the headrest, eyes distant. "The dreams I've been having, they didn't start after we moved into the house." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "They started after my dad died." A sharp breath caught in my lungs. His father had passed away 8 months ago, a sudden heart attack. Devastating but not mysterious. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Because it sounded crazy," he said. "But every night since he died, I've had the same dream. Mia calling out. A feeling like she wasn't safe. And then this new house made it worse." I frowned. "But what does your dad have to do with this?" "Because," he whispered, "before he died, he used to sleepwalk too." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Jason, what are you saying?" He looked at me, eyes full of something I couldn't name. Fear, grief, confusion. "I think this has been building for years. And I think my dad hid things from us the same way I've been hiding from you." Something icy crept up my spine. "But you're not like your dad," I said firmly. "Whatever is happening, we'll figure it out. This isn't your fault." He nodded, but his hands were trembling. "Sarah." "Yeah." "Tonight, at the sleep clinic, I'm scared of what they're going to find." And for the first time since this nightmare began, I realized something horrifying. So was I. Jason paced the living room the rest of the afternoon, checking the time every few minutes like the sleep study appointment was a countdown to something inevitable. I tried to keep busy, folding laundry, wiping counters, reorganizing a drawer that didn't need reorganizing, but my mind kept drifting back to his words. My dad sleepwalked too. He hid things. This started after he died. It all clung to me like static I couldn't shake off. When it was time to pick Mia up, Jason insisted on coming. I studied him carefully as he waited outside the school, leaning against the car with his arms crossed, watching the children spill out of the doors. He looked like a normal dad, tired, stressed, worn down, but normal. Yet now everything felt like it carried a second meaning. Every shadow under his eyes, every pause before he spoke, every glance he made at our daughter. When Mia ran to us, she grabbed his hand without hesitation. "Are you going to the doctor tonight?" she asked as she climbed into the back seat. Jason nodded. "Yep. And hopefully they tell me how to stop being weird in my sleep." She giggled softly. "You're not weird." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Thanks, kiddo." On the drive home, she hummed to herself, tapping her sneakers together, while Jason stared straight ahead like his thoughts were miles away. Once we got home, I made dinner, even though none of us were hungry, because routines make things feel normal, and we desperately needed normal. Mia sat at the table coloring, occasionally glancing up at Jason like she was still trying to figure out what was safe to ask. Daddy, she finally said, in your dreams, am I okay? Jason froze. The question hit harder than anything the doctor had asked. He slowly set down his fork and turned to her. Mia, in my dreams, I'm trying to get to you. But it doesn't mean something bad is happening. Dreams are just dreams. Sometimes they trick us into thinking they're real. Does it feel real? She whispered. Jason swallowed. Sometimes. Mia nodded, as if that answer made sense in a way I couldn't fully understand. But kids get things adults don't. Kids feel things deeper, even when they don't have the words for them. At 7 p.m., we drove Jason to the sleep center. The building looked calm and clinical, white walls, glass doors, and soft lighting meant to soothe anxious patients. Inside, a nurse with a warm smile led us through the hallway to a room with a bed, cameras, and monitoring wires neatly laid out. We'll be watching his brain activity, breathing, heart rate, limb movement, all of it, she explained. If anything unusual happens, we'll see it. Jason sat on the edge of the bed while they attached sensors to his scalp, chest, and face. Mia watched from the chair in the corner, legs swinging, silent but observant in a way that felt older than her age. When they were done, the technician said, once you're ready, we'll dim the lights. We need you to fall asleep naturally. Jason nodded and lay back. I stepped closer, brushing a hand across his forehead. I'll come get you in the morning. Stay with me until I fall asleep? He asked quietly. Of course. Mia climbed into my lap and curled against me. And for a moment, the three of us were just a family again, wrapped in fear, but holding on to each other. Eventually, Jason's breathing softened, his chest rising and falling in the slow rhythm of someone drifting off. A tech entered quietly and dimmed the lights. After a few minutes, the screens lit up with his brain activity. Peaks and valleys, lines moving, patterns forming. The technician whispered, he's entering stage 2 sleep. Mia marveled at the monitors like she was watching fireworks. I just held my breath. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 30. Nothing, just normal patterns. The tech even murmured, this looks good so far. Relief washed through me, tentative but warming. Maybe this would be simple. Maybe they'd find something mild, something treatable. Maybe this nightmare was just a bump in our lives. I almost let myself believe that. Almost. Then Jason's leg twitched. The tech leaned forward. That's normal, she whispered. Another twitch. Then his fingers curled. His breathing changed, not faster, not louder, but shallower, like each inhale was slightly stolen. The tech straightened. He's transitioning sleep stages. Mia gripped my hand. Is he dreaming now? Maybe, I whispered. Jason's eyelids fluttered. His jaw tightened. His head turned toward the wall, then toward the ceiling. Then, slowly, painfully, his body began to sit up. Mia gasped softly and buried her face in my chest. I held her close, my own heart thudding. The tech watched the screens, voice low but uneasy. This isn't typical sleepwalking posture. Jason was upright now, back straight, shoulders stiff, head tilted slightly downward like he wasn't looking at anything, but through everything. And then, God, his mouth opened. No sound, no words, just an open, strained gasp like he was trying to speak and couldn't. His hands lifted slightly off the bed, fingers trembling in the dim light. The tech whispered, he's not awake. Look at the brainwave pattern. But what terrified me most was what came next. Jason turned his head, slowly, mechanically, directly toward Mia. His eyes were closed, but his face faced her with chilling precision, like some instinct buried deep inside him knew she was there. Mia whimpered into my shirt. Mommy, I hugged her tighter. The tech picked up the phone and called into the monitoring room. We need Dr. Patel in here. Now. Jason's body began to lean forward, like he was preparing to stand. The machines beeped. The brainwaves spiked. And then his lips moved. A whisper escaped. So faint I almost missed it. One single word. Help. By the time Dr. Patel rushed in, Jason was shaking violently, eyes still shut, body caught between dream and consciousness like he was trapped in some invisible storm. And every instinct inside me screamed the same question. What is he trapped with? Dr. Patel rushed to Jason's bedside, just as his whole body jolted like an electric current had run through him. The monitors beeped rapidly, sharp and uneven, and the room filled with that tense, thick silence that happens right before something breaks. I held Mia tighter, feeling her small hands gripping my shirt so hard her knuckles went white. Jason's chest was rising and falling in shallow, rapid breaths, the kind that came from fear, not exertion. But his eyes were still closed, and he still wasn't awake. Is he having a seizure? I whispered. No, Dr. Patel said quickly, watching the monitors. This isn't seizure activity. This is parasomnia mixed with a dissociative state. He's stuck between consciousness and dream. My stomach twisted. Can we wake him? Not yet, she murmured. Pulling someone out of a complex parasomnia too quickly can trigger panic or aggression. We need to understand what's happening neurologically before we intervene. Mia hid her face again, her soft voice trembling. Why is he looking at me like that? He can't see you, sweetheart, Dr. Patel said gently without looking away from the screens. Even if it looks like he can. His brain isn't processing the real room right now. But it didn't feel like that. Jason's closed eyes were angled directly at Mia again, his head tilted in that uncanny way that made every instinct in me scream danger. Not because I believed he meant harm, but because he was lost. Deeply, frighteningly lost in a place we couldn't reach. His hand rose slowly and extended toward her, palm open, trembling violently. Help, he whispered again, the words strained, torn out of him like someone else was controlling his tongue. Dr. Patel leaned closer to him. Jason, can you hear me? No response. Just another whisper. Help her. My heart stopped. Help who? I asked, stepping forward before I even realized I was moving. Jason didn't answer, but he flinched, like my voice had hit some nerve buried beneath his dreaming. The monitor spiked again. The tech in the doorway spoke urgently. Doctor, his heart rate's climbing. This isn't sustainable. Dr. Patel nodded once. Okay, we intervene. She positioned herself beside him, speaking in a firm, steady tone. Jason, I'm going to ground you now. I need you to follow my voice. You are safe. You are sleeping. You are not in danger. His breathing got even faster, erratic, borderline panicked. He's not responding, the tech said. Dr. Patel placed a hand on his shoulder. Jason, wake up. His entire body jerked backward, then forward, then, like someone cut the strings holding him upright. He collapsed flat on the mattress. His eyes flew open in a wild, unfocused stare. A guttural, terrified sound tore from his throat. The tech gasped. I stepped backward, holding Mia to my chest. Jason's gaze darted around the room, frantic and disoriented until it landed on me. And then on Mia. Something in him broke. He sobbed, actual, heartbreaking sobs, like a man surfacing from underwater after being held down too long. Sarah, he choked out. Mia. Oh God. Dr. Patel stepped between him and the machines, grounding him. Jason, you're awake. You're safe. You're here. Deep breaths. Jason tried. But every breath shuddered, every inhale sharp like his lungs weren't convinced they wanted air. I couldn't move, he gasped. I couldn't stop it. I saw he froze, eyes wide, terrified. You saw what? Dr. Patel asked. Jason shook his head violently. No, he rasped. No, it wasn't real. What wasn't real? I asked, terror rising in my throat like bile. He looked at me with a haunted expression I had never seen on his face, not even when we lost his father, not even when life threw its hardest blows. In the dream, he swallowed hard. Mia wasn't calling for me. She was calling for someone else. My chest tightened. Who? Jason's voice was barely a whisper. My dad. Dr. Patel went still. The tech went silent. Even the machine seemed to hum more quietly, as if the room itself knew something had shifted. Your father? Dr. Patel repeated. Jason nodded shakily. I heard his voice. Not mine. Not Sarah's. Not Mia's. His. Telling me to get to her. Telling me she wasn't safe. Telling me he broke off, trembling uncontrollably. telling me I was failing her the way he failed me. My blood ran cold. Jason, I whispered, your dad never failed you. He looked up at me, eyes glassy, voice splintering. Yes, he did. The words were soft, broken, and suddenly I realized something. This wasn't just sleepwalking. This wasn't just stress. This was deeper, older, rotting its way up from a place Jason had buried long before I met him. Dr. Patel kept her tone calm. Jason, we need you to tell us what you dreamed. What exactly did he say? Jason pressed a shaking hand to his forehead, squeezing his eyes shut like he was trying to hold something back. He said there were things I didn't know. His breath hitched. About him. About what he did when he sleepwalked. About what happened in our house growing up. My heart pounded. What happened, Jason? He opened his eyes and looked straight at me. I think my dad hurt someone. The room went silent. And I think, he whispered, he's trying to warn me before I become him. Jason's confession hung in the room like smoke. Heavy, choking, impossible to ignore. Even the machines beside him seemed to quiet down, their steady beeps feeling intrusive against the heaviness of his words. Dr. Patel pulled up a chair and sat directly in front of him, her expression shifting from clinical focus to something softer, more human. Jason, she said gently, when you say your father hurt someone, what do you mean? Can you tell us what you remember? Jason shook his head, pressing his palms against his eyes. I don't remember anything clearly. Just feelings, glimpses, moments when I was a kid, and woke up scared without knowing why. Times he'd be standing in my doorway, staring, and then later he'd claim it was sleepwalking. My heart stuttered. He never told me that. He looked at me with a haunted, apologetic expression, because I didn't connect the dots. Or maybe I didn't want to connect them. Growing up, I just accepted it as one of those weird things dads do when they're stressed or tired. But now, watching myself do the exact same thing. He swallowed hard. I can't ignore it anymore. Mia shifted in my arms, peeking out just enough to look at Jason. Grandpa was scary? Jason's face cracked openly at her question. No, sweetheart. He wasn't scary. He loved me. He had problems. Problems he didn't know how to talk about. Dr. Patel folded her hands. Jason, can you tell me what your father said in the dream? Word for word, if you can remember. Jason's breathing quickened again, the same shallow, panicked rhythm from earlier, but he fought it, grounding himself with both hands gripping the bedspread. He said, Jason whispered, that I needed to protect her. Before I hurt her the way he stopped. Completely. His mouth worked, but no sound came out. Hurt who? Dr. Patel urged softly. Jason's eyes darted around the room like he was looking for an escape. I don't know, he rasped. I didn't see. He didn't say a name. It was like someone was missing from the dream. Like a blank space where something should have been. The tech checked the monitors and frowned. His stress levels are spiking again. Dr. Patel reached out and placed her hand lightly on his arm. Jason, slow your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. You're safe. Jason tried. But each breath trembled like it was fighting its way out of him. I'm afraid, he whispered, that whatever he did, I'm capable of doing too. No, I said sharply, stepping closer. Don't do that. Don't turn this into something you're guilty of without knowing the facts. He looked up at me, voice cracking. I stood over her, Sarah. I watched her sleep. I don't remember doing it. I don't remember walking there. I don't know what I'm doing when I'm not fully awake. I felt my own throat tighten. And you came here. You told the doctor. You asked for help. That's not what someone dangerous does, Jason. His eyes softened at that, a flicker of the man I knew. The man who coached kids soccer, who packed me his lunch with heart-shaped sandwiches, who triple-checked the locks every night. Dr. Patel tapped gently on the monitor beside her. Jason, whatever is happening, it's tied to something emotional. Neurological parasomnias can be triggered by unresolved trauma, even trauma you don't consciously remember. He blinked hard. I don't have trauma. Dr. Patel raised an eyebrow. Your father died suddenly. You've been having the same dream for months. You've been losing time. Your sleep is disrupted. And you're carrying fear that didn't start overnight. Jason's jaw clenched. That's not trauma. It is, she said kindly. You just haven't given yourself permission to see it that way. Mia slipped down from my lap and walked slowly to Jason's bedside. She hesitated, then reached out and placed her hand on top of his. Daddy, I think you're trying to help me, not hurt me. Jason's face crumpled. Emotion hit him so hard he nearly folded in on himself. Sweetheart, if Grandpa is talking in your dreams, she said in her quiet, matter-of-fact way, maybe he's telling you something about him. Not about you. Dr. Patel nodded. She's right. Sometimes our dreams aren't warnings, they're reflections. Your brain is trying to piece together something unfinished. The tech stepped back into the doorway. Doctor, you'll want to see this. We all turned toward the monitor screen outside the observation window. The tech rewound the footage from the past hour, not just the part where Jason sat up, but the moments leading up to it. At first, it looked like any other sleep footage. Slow breathing, minor movements. But then something changed. Jason's body tensed, not slowly like before, but all at once, as if a switch had flipped inside him. Then came the worst part. His lips were moving long before he ever spoke. Silent, repetitive, urgent. Dr. Patel leaned in. Can you zoom in? The tech enlarged the video. The sound was faint, barely audible through the speakers, but visible on his lips. Over and over. One phrase. 3 words. Not help her. Not help. Something else. Something that froze the air in my lungs. Something Jason hadn't remembered saying. Something that made his nightmare suddenly feel like it had roots. He was whispering, stop what happened. Over. And over. And over. Jason stared at the screen like he didn't recognize himself. Oh my God, he whispered. What happened to who? Dr. Patel turned to him slowly. Jason, I think this goes deeper than sleepwalking. I think your father carried something terrible. And I think he passed the fear, not the act, to you. I swallowed hard. So, what do we do now? Dr. Patel exhaled, her expression grave but certain. Now, she said, we dig. We go backward. Into your childhood. Into your family history. Into whatever your father was hiding. Because your brain is trying to tell you a story you weren't old enough to understand. Jason stared at the video, face pale. And what if, he whispered, I don't want to know the ending. Dr. Patel met his eyes steadily. You need to. Because whatever happened back then, whatever your father did or didn't do, that's what's haunting you now. Jason closed his eyes, devastation and fear etched across his face. And if the truth is worse than the dream, then we face it, I said, taking his hand. Together. But deep inside, as I looked at him, looked at our daughter, looked at the footage, one chilling thought anchored itself in my mind. Whatever happened back then didn't stay back then. Dr. Patel asked the tech to rewind the footage again, this time slowing it down frame by frame. The silence in the observation room deepened with every click backward, like the air itself was holding its breath. Jason leaned forward, gripping the armrest of his chair as if bracing himself for impact. I stood beside him, Mia clinging to my waist, wide-eyed but quiet. The tech adjusted the audio filters, pulling out unclear frequencies until the whispering faintly overlapped with the room noise. When Jason's lips moved again on the screen, we heard the murmur more clearly, trembling, broken, terrified. Stop what happened. Stop what happened. Stop what happened. Jason pressed a hand to his forehead. Why would I say that? Stop what happened to who? What even happened? Dr. Patel didn't answer right away. Instead, she tapped her finger gently on the desk. Jason, when you were a child, did anything happen in your family that was never fully explained to you? A disappearance? A sudden move? A falling out between relatives? Jason shook his head, but then hesitated. The hesitation was small, a flicker, but it didn't go unnoticed. What? I asked quietly. What was that? He sighed. It's nothing. Just a weird memory. Tell me, Dr. Patel encouraged. Jason exhaled shakily. I remember police lights once, flashing in our driveway. I woke up because my dad was yelling at someone outside. I looked through the blinds and saw him arguing with a police officer. How old were you? Dr. Patel asked. Maybe 7, 8. Did you ask your dad what was happening? Jason nodded. He said someone in the neighborhood had gone missing. A girl. And they were asking everybody questions. Do you remember her name? Jason closed his eyes, searching through years of dusted-over memories. Emily, he murmured. I think her name was Emily. My stomach dropped. And your dad, he was mad about them talking to him? Yeah, really mad. I remember him slamming the door after they left. I asked him why he was upset, and he told me the police waste time. On what? Dr. Patel asked, voice steady. On things that don't matter, Jason whispered. He said people disappear all the time, and the world moves on. I didn't understand it then. I just thought he was tired. Dr. Patel steepled her fingers. Jason, people don't usually react with anger when police check the neighborhood during a missing child case. Jason swallowed the lump in his throat. Are you saying my dad had something to do with that girl going missing? I'm asking, Dr. Patel said carefully, whether that event, or his behavior around it, might be connected to what your subconscious is trying to process now. Jason shook his head aggressively. No, my dad wasn't perfect, but he stopped. His voice caught. And then, in a whisper that made every hair rise on my arms, he said, he used to tell me not to let anyone in the house during the afternoon. He said he was sleeping, but I remember hearing noises sometimes. What kind of noises? I asked. Jason's face went pale. Crying. The room felt like it tilted. Dr. Patel leaned forward. Jason, are you absolutely sure it wasn't a dream? Or a TV? Or something else? I'm not sure about anything anymore, he admitted. Dr. Patel exchanged a glance with the tech, then stood. I think we need to run a different kind of assessment. Not just neurological, psychological. We need to see if there are repressed memories that were triggered by becoming a parent yourself. If you are watching this, please subscribe for part 2 and let me know where you are watching from.